Welcome, everybody, to the Slack on Flicks podcast. I'm film critic and 16 News Now producer Benjamin Slack. Well, I think the next film coming out is either going to be the official end of the summer blockbuster season, or it is going to be the start of spooky season. We are talking, of course, about The Conjuring Last Rites, the final installment of the Conjuring series, potentially a final installment of the Conjuring universe. We have not got confirmation about that yet, but judging from the way the film is advertising and all the loose ends that have been tied up in the universe so far, I think it's safe to say that this is going to be the bittersweet ending to a beloved franchise, easily one of the most successful in the horror genre, and one of my favorites too. And I'm not the only one excited about this, of course. I have a special guest in this podcast room with me right now. Let's bring in the lovely Miss Natacha Casal. Natacha, thank you for joining us.
I'm super excited. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm with the one and only the cinematographer, film critic himself, Benjamin Slack. Come on, I'm excited. We're going to talk about spookiness, the Warrens, demonology. Let's go. I'm ready.
Okay, so The Conjuring is a very unique series because it is based on true stories of Ed and Lorraine Warren, easily the most famous paranormal investigators of all time. They've investigated various hauntings, including Amityville. Obviously, there's the infamous Annabelle doll, the Enfield poltergeist. The Conjuring Last Rites is actually taking inspiration from one of the most famous paranormal cases in the 1980s, the Smurl family, which was very similar to The Conjuring 1, where it was with a family dealing with supernatural occurrences that ultimately ended up taking a physical manifestation on the occupants in the house. Natacha, though, you were telling me that one of the main reasons that you were actually excited for this film is because a lot like me, you and I have quite a bit in common. I mean, we both love documentaries. Of course,
True crime. All things horror.
All things horror, yes. And so, Natacha, how did you get into the Conjuring universe, into the horror genre in general?
So, horror genre in general, I've always been a fan of everything spooky. Growing up, I used to watch a lot of the behind the scenes, actually the making of the films, because I feel like it would make things a little bit less scarier when I was actually watching the films. But my love for the Conjuring universe, and the Warrens especially, has to do with the first movie, The Conjuring, the first one, the scariest one out of all of them, I believe. I think during that time, the whole clapping killed everyone in the theaters, at home too. So it really pretty much started from there, and I just thought it was so crazy that two people were able to bring cold, hard evidence that the paranormal and there's something on the other side of this realm, basically. And that's how it started. How about you, Ben? How did it start? How did you get into the paranormal?
Well, it was almost like out of nowhere, because I grew up about 20 minutes outside of Chicago, and Chicago is a very famous location for its supernatural occurrences over there. I don't know if you ever heard of Resurrection Mary.
I haven't heard of Resurrection Mary or any of that, but I happened to fall onto TikTok where a woman was basically talking about how Chicago is a portal. There's a lot of paranormal. There's a lot of bloodshed on those streets. Having to do back in the day for immigration and everything, and especially with Al Capone. Mm-hmm. But they're basically saying Chicago is a hub for the paranormal. It's a hot spot.
Well, arguably one of those portals is the tomb that is still in Lincoln Park to this day. There is a mausoleum sitting right in the middle of Lincoln Park, because Lincoln Park actually used to be a large cemetery, and then they cleared it out to make it what it is today, including the zoo and all kinds of stuff like that. But they kept one grave there that still sits. It's a blink and you'll miss it. You drive past it on a Lakeshore Drive, but it's there. I didn't even realize it until I took the Chicago Ghost Tour, I think when I was 13 years old or something like that.
There's even ghost tours? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, they're awesome. They only take place at night, too, so it really adds to the atmosphere.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I can only imagine it does. But as you were saying, there's a lot of spooky landmarks, basically, out in Chicago. Mm-hmm. Sorry that I cut you off, so
oh, you're fine.
Tell me more.
Fine. Well, and then the main reason I started getting into the Conjuring and the paranormal, because I didn't see the Conjuring films precisely when they came out. I didn't start going to see them until around Annabelle Creation. I think that was around 2016 or 2015, like that. It was the fourth film in the series. But it was around that time my friend Maggie, shout out to her, she was begging me to go see this film, and I didn't really want to see it, but I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do the research and look it up. And so I'm doing the research. I learned about the real Annabelle, learned about the Warrens and everything. I rewatched the first three films. But then one night, I'm sitting in my grandparents' house. Note, it's very dark in there. This was maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. I just got done watching.
The witching hour. About to be the witching hour, actually.
Well, on top of that, right across in in the living room, kind of at the end of the living room, just as you're about to go into the hall. My grandmother's got this displays of very creepy porcelain-looking dolls in there.
Why do I have a feeling I know what you're about to say?
Well,
I experience. If you're about to say what I think you're about to say.
Well, I want to hear that, but it's not going in that direction. I'm sitting there in the middle of the night, just laying down, relaxing, and then out of nowhere, I promise you that this happened. I've debated myself for numerous years, but I'm still convinced that it happened. I'm laying there in the middle of the night, and out of nowhere, I hear something in the kitchen. It sounded like either somebody threw a bunch of plates down that shattered, or somebody was trying to break like into the window. And then right after that, I hear this like this terrified scream. It sounded like a young woman was like screaming like to death. And I jump up. I'm like, what the heck was that? I swear I heard it. And I'm like, I literally took out my phone, looked very slowly into the kitchen, hands shaking with the flashlight, and I went full on Ed Warren and everything.
Oh, you went to investigate, of course.
I did.
To figure out what's going on.
I went on full Ed Warren, took out my little cross that I'm still wearing to this day underneath my shirt, and I'm holding it out, and I'm looking all over the place. I checked the cabinet. Nothing's been broken. Nothing's in here. And I literally called out. I'm like, okay, if there's something in here, make yourself known. Got no response. Make yourself known that you are here. Nothing happened. I'm like, okay, maybe it was just my imagination. So I turn around, and just as I'm about to walk out of the kitchen, the furnace in the pantry, which is right next to the kitchen, starts going.
I would have pooped my pants, Ben. Oh my, what'd you do after that?
Well, I turned around and I looked at it, and note the air conditioner or heat makes some noise when it comes on, but only like a click, only like a and then it starts blowing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I looked at it and I'm like, what the heck was that?
When you said porcelain doll, so I had an experience as a kid where one of my grandmothers gifted me a very beautiful porcelain doll, all dressed pretty, and we would have it on the side of one of my counters. There was one night where I don't know if I woke up like mid like REM sleep or what it was, but I swear I saw one of them turn, like slowly just go.
Oh, no.
And I was surrounded by. And I keep on hitting this mic. I'm so sorry.
You're fine. I haven't even heard it.
I also used to have a bunch of porcelain like Princess Disney dolls all hanging up on top too. And there was times where I swore I would look up and I would see one of them peep over and then peep right back up. And then the one the paranormal experience, two of them, that I know that there's another side. So when after my grandfather passed away back in 2013, where my room was, there was a hallway that would connect the other side of the house. But once he passed away, I would hear his boots going across from my room back and forth, because every night before I would go to bed or he would go to bed, he would go to our game room, and I would hear the door lock and I would hear his footsteps coming across. But once he passed, I would hear for 2 weeks afterwards those same footsteps just crossing over.
Whoa, wow.
So that was one experience I had. But I was like, I like to think that was my grandfather on the other side. He was checking up on us, making sure we're all good. But then there was another experience where I was in bed. It was the middle of the night, and I had one of the coldest rooms in the house back home. But it just felt different this night. So I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden I feel one side of my bed just go, as if someone's sitting next to me. And I feel like I'm being watched. I went and peeped over my head from the lights. I started seeing shadow figures. I was like,
Oh, no.
Covered my head back up, and then I was like,
scary.
I'm really gonna test it out. I stuck one hand on one side of the bed, and it was freezing cold. Like you can tell degrees difference. And I put my hand back in, and I went to the other side, and it was way warmer than the other side.
Oh my God,
and it was on
terrifying.
The coldest side was where it was a little. I swear, it's like I felt someone sit next to me, and then after I started freaking out, I gave myself a little prayer in my head, and I felt the bed go back up, as if someone was getting up. It was the strangest and scariest experience I've ever had. But that was my sign of like, I know that there's another.
Interesting. That is very interesting. That one though that you told me about with the dolls and then the shadows or everything, that's almost concerning, I think. And I got to be honest, it reminds me of something that's very, very similar that happened in the history in the early 1970s. And there she is right there. Don't look into her eyes right now.
Annabelle, the doll, the killer doll.
That is the real Annabelle right there in her case. This video was taken around 2017. She is locked away in her case. Really quick though, if we can, I'd like to give a brief history of the real Annabelle. For starters, you could see right here, she is a Raggedy Ann doll, a popular doll back in the day. The reason they changed her appearance to a porcelain, sinister-looking doll is because the director of the first Conjuring, James Wan, he didn't want to go through the whole Raggedy Ann trademark thing, so he came up with his own design. And in my opinion, I think it makes the scares a little bit better. But anyway, the doll was given to a young nurse named Debbie in the early 1970s, around 1970 to 1971, by her mother, because Debbie liked dolls. She was a young woman at this time, and she really loved dolls. She had a doll collection. And so everything was fine at first, but then her and her roommate started to notice that the Raggedy Ann doll started moving. There'd be days where they would come home and the doll would be on the bed. They left her on the bed, but the arms would be crossed, her legs would be crossed, she would be on her side. It was like somebody moved her. And then sooner or later, the doll started showing up in other rooms when they left. There would be times where they would walk into the house and there would be notes of parchment on the ground. Number one, there was no parchment in the house, and there were notes that said, "Help me," on there. So now they're thinking that somebody is breaking into the apartment. So they left a few traps, like putting tape on the door in certain areas, so if somebody walked in, they would know about it. Came in one day, the doll was in another room, but there was no sign of anybody walking into the apartment. So they realized, whoa, something is going on here. So they ended up calling over a psychic and the psychic had a seance and said that there is a little girl in this apartment. She was killed right outside the apartment building. Her name is Annabelle Higgins, and she likes your doll. She wants your permission to possess the doll. Now, right away, right there, that is a bunch of baloney, because they say God will not let a human soul go into an inanimate object like that. This psychic, unfortunately, was weak for this brief moment, and the demon that had an attraction to this doll managed to corrupt this psychic and reveal this. The demonic entity wanted permission to stay, latch itself to this doll, and use it as a conduit and haunt these young women. And unfortunately, that's what happened, because the girls unwillingly gave that demon permission. They said, okay, this little girl, Annabelle, can possess this doll. And ever since then, they started calling the doll Annabelle, which is how the doll got its name. But either way, time went by. Annabelle now still kept moving around the house, but now the nurses didn't really care much anymore. They thought they had a little girl soul on their hand, so they started treating it, sitting at the table when they ate dinner, put it in the room when they were watching television or listening to music, and started addressing it by its name. But the roommate's fiance, Lou, never liked this doll from the start. He always said there was something about that doll that he didn't like. And one evening, he's laying on the couch in the girl's apartment, and he wakes up very startled. The girls come running into the room, and he's like, I had a horrible nightmare. He goes, I dreamt that I was sleeping on this couch, and that doll started crawling up my body. Then it wrapped its little hands around my throat and started strangling me. And so in a moment of either could be called bravery or stupidity, the boyfriend walked into the bedroom where Annabelle was at, picked her up, threw her across the room, and he said, you're just a Raggedy Ann doll. You can't do anything to me. And at that moment, 7 psychic wounds slashed themselves onto the fiance's body. It was so thick that blood just started dripping through the shirt. It was very bad. And so the nurses realized, whoa, this is not the spirit of a little girl here. So they got a hold of their local priest, and the local priest got a hold of Ed Warren. Ed came over with Lorraine. The girls told him everything that happened, just like you see in the very first Conjuring movie. And Lorraine said, well, that is not a little girl's spirit. And they told them everything that I am telling you right now. They took the doll and they put her in a glass case where she still sits to this day.
Well, she was out of it for a few months ago, but she's back in it now. Guys.
Yes. We'll get to that topic in a little bit. But first, I'd like to start talking about the Conjuring films because you're a big fan of the franchise. You said, have you seen all of them?
I have seen all the Conjuring films, so the ones that are based off of the Warrens and their cases. But Annabelle is the only one I have not really watched or tuned into because I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really that into it.
Really?
I feel like I was so into the original story of Annabelle, how she was possessed and how it was brought into these nurses' homes, and that's when all these crazy things happened. I like the real story, but I feel like when it came to the movies, there was a few things that were a little too gimmicky, if I have to say.
I could see that, but they did take the thing I like about the Conjuring films. One of my biggest pet peeves is a movie that says it's based on a true story and then it changes like nearly everything that happened to it. That's a big pet peeve of mine. But the thing that's different, I think, with the Conjuring films is, yeah, they take fictional liberties most of the time for a majority, but the lore and everything in there is still rooted to the actual story that takes place. They drop in little Easter eggs in there. They make little mentions in there that, how do I say this? Well,
it all connects.
That all connects to the real thing, yes. And then on top of that, with the end credits, all the end credits, they always show the real photos. They play actual audio from the actual cases in there.
Yeah, I love that they end up giving the credibility towards the end of the films.
Yeah.
But
so
I do believe they need to do a bit. I would love it if they just did a reenactment. I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
And make that the film. I want a reenactment of all these cases.
Well, if we're going to talk about the different films and these cases in there, we have to start with The Conjuring 1. And honestly, that one took a lot of fictional liberties with it, specifically with the ending, because the Conjuring 1 follows the Warrens as they investigate the Parent family haunting in 1971 in Rhode Island. And it's basically
that shot. I'm sorry with the feet. I remember the feeling of watching that in the commercials. Like, ugh.
It is creepy. Yeah. Part that got me was with the beds. They were pulling the kids out of the beds and the covers were flipping over. Yeah. But The Conjuring 1, as I was mentioned, follows the Warrens as they investigate the Parent family haunting in 1971 Rhode Island. But they find out about a witch that used to live on land that sacrificed her baby to the devil. And the witch takes over the mom of the family and begins to reenact what happened all those years ago. And the Warrens got to come in. Mm-hmm. They have to perform an exorcism, rid the house of the negative energy that's in there. And
yeah, Bathsheba. That was her name.
Bathsheba. Yep, that's it. And there was a real Bathsheba Sherman in real life that allegedly did sacrifice her baby to the devil. They never proved it in a court of law. They actually found her not guilty. But she did go on to live a life after that, but it was never the same after that. I guess each one of her kids all did end up dying in real life before they hit like teenage years, and she was always shunned for the rest of her life. But in real life, the movie, they make it look like the Warrens were there for like a month or 2 weeks or something. But in real life, the Warrens were only there for like a couple days. They investigated. The family wasn't a big fan of having them in the house. And when it came time to do the supposed exorcism of the mother, the father ended up punching Ed right in the face and throwing the Warrens out. And they never went back after that.
Really?
Yep.
I'm like, okay, it sounds familiar, but like they never end up performing the exorcism at all after that?
Nope.
That is crazy. I was going to say that in the movie, and you're blowing my mind, Brent. I feel like I don't know what's going to happen now moving forward within the horror genre entirely, because this was paranormal. This was stuff that was based off of real things and real cases that happened. Mm-hmm. Now everything else is going to be fictional. Or I just don't know how people are going to be able to compete with this going forward.
Exactly. And I mean, it's going to be hard to top that because the Warrens are the most documented paranormal investigators there are. I mean, yeah, you got these people on TV like that, but the Warrens like actually have like have proof of everything that's in there. Of course, there's the museum that's sadly closed due to zoning issues, but hey, it has since been purchased again, so we'll see what happens there. You think
the great canceled Matt Rife is now the ownership of this wonderful occult museum?
Yep.
And guess what, guys? He wants to make an Airbnb, like a bed and breakfast, so
I know,
you can stay in there too.
He's basically turning into Lizzie Borden's house right there. Here's a question.
I don't want to stay there though.
I was gonna say, would you spend the night in the Warrens' house right there, knowing that this museum that we're looking at right now is right next to it, connected to it actually, connected by a hallway?
I would want to go visit. I would want to go check it out, but I don't think I would stay there.
Yeah.
But it's also, I would have to be like bathed in holy water. I want a priest with me in there. Mm-hmm. Like, there's going to be a couple things that have to happen before walking into.
Well, they say that's what, before anybody does go in there, a priest is usually there, and they usually do a blessing on you, and they recommend wearing like some type of like protection, like whether if that's a crucifix or something like that. Yeah.
But I still feel like I think it needs to be in better hands, especially I know that the son-in-law for the Warrens was taking care of that primarily ever since basically before Lorraine passed away.
Ever since Ed passed away, their son-in-law Tony Spera took it over. Runs the YouTube channel, ran everything about it, made sure that everything was blessed. He was basically the new Ed Warren, and then this whole thing happened.
So it's like I want to know what made him come to the decision to sell it and have no connection to it, because Annabelle was on a world tour at one point. She got missing.
She got taken out of that case.
Yeah, a lot of things happened while Annabelle was out and about.
Yeah, she got taken out of that case in 2017, and this is footage of it right here. That is the original case that Ed Warren built right there. But you can see right now,
the guy's wearing gloves.
The late Dan Rivera is wearing gloves, blessed with holy water. Annabelle is out of the case for a good maybe 15 seconds. That's all it takes right there, right there. She's out of that case. They put her back in the new one that Dan Rivera actually built himself. And the main reason they actually...
Sorry, I know I cut you off, but why would they just change cases? The other one looked perfectly fine. It looked like the same thing.
Well, the main reason they built the case is because they were going to be taking Annabelle on those tours. And that case apparently was more edible for transportation other than the original one that Ed built that was actually placed like on the wall. They couldn't really move the case with it.
Yeah, but I think Ed had a reason for it.
Exactly. Little fun fact, they have the movie doll in that original case right now.
They have the movie doll in the original case?
Yeah, they have the movie doll in there. Yeah, they just put it in there just for a prop, like just for like, oh, here's a nod to the movies that came out. But yeah, if you walk into the Warrens Occult Museum, which if you do, I kind of hope you don't, because that means you're breaking and entering. But
yeah,
yes, the movie doll that we are looking at right now is in the original case that Ed built, while the real Annabelle is in a new case that the late Dan Rivera built, who was actually found unresponsive in Pennsylvania a few months ago. He was with Annabelle at the time. Annabelle was located. She was found. She's back in her case. She's back in the museum. What happened in between? It's still a mystery right now.
That is crazy. We might have a documented death by the paranormal.
We could, yeah.
I hope she gets put back into the other case, though, because clearly the other one was not doing it.
Well, the thing is, they moved her in that case in 2017, so she's been in there for a good 8 years, and, well, I guess that demon attached to her took its time, because Annabelle technically isn't really the thing that's, like...
Attached?
That's killing people, sort of say, like in the movies and all that. Yeah, Annabelle is what is known as a conduit, which is basically like a vessel for this demonic entity that is latched to her. It's almost like, you know how Superman's superpowers come from the red sun over there. It's like this demon powers come from the doll. So with that doll locked away in the case, it can't get to its source of strength.
Yeah, but then my question is, since I know that the Warrens did that with Annabelle because, like you said, it's conduit, stores themselves inside of an object. Are all of those objects in the museum also possessed?
No, not...
Or some of them are just like, I hate to say keepsake, but, you know, when it comes to specific cases, they'll bring like little tag-alongs and be like, okay, I'm going to grab this, and just like, this is from this and this case. Well,
this actually is a pretty good segue because I wanted to talk about some of the objects in the museum actually that are in there. I'm going to start off right here with the White Lady of Union Graveyard. Now, this right here is a representation of a famous ghost that is in Union Cemetery in Connecticut. It's very actually similar to Resurrection Mary in Chicago. And so apparently...
Yeah, what's the story behind her?
Well, apparently this one guy was driving down the road late at night in front of the cemetery, and he happened to see this lady run out in front of his car. He slams on the brakes, and he feels like he hit something. He's like, oh my God, I hit somebody. He checks to make sure there's nobody there. But this is how he described that this woman looked. She was wearing like a white bride's dress in there, and he was terrified. He was like, you know, what happened? And so he gets a hold and tells one of his buddies about this. And so his buddies say, well, why don't you call up Ed Warren? He lives right over there in Monroe. You know, he knows about all this stuff. You know, why don't you call him about it and tell him about it? So the man calls Ed. Ed tells him to describe, you know, where it happened, you know, everything that went down. He does. So Ed goes to the cemetery, and he's there for 6 straight nights. And on the 6th night, just as he's about ready to go, he sees the entity run out in front of him. Nothing really happens, but he saw it. It's confirmation. There is something in Union Cemetery. So they kind of dressed up that mannequin to look like the White Lady of Union Graveyard. There hasn't been a legitimate sighting in recent years, but that is what she looks like. She's a very, very famous ghost that appears in Connecticut. When she will be spotted again, that will yet to be known.
I hear Connecticut is just like a hub for the paranormal, though. A lot of stuff happens over there.
Exactly. And then there's other items in here. This one I think is the most chilling of all the cases.
This is the one that they found in the forest?
In the woods, yes. This is a satanic worship idol. Now, this thing right here, if you can tell from the camera angle in there, it's about a good almost 6 feet, 7 feet tall statue. Now, the way the story goes is that a man was walking, a deer hunter, was walking through the woods in Connecticut. He finds himself completely lost, can't find where he is, don't know where he's at. And then he stumbles upon a grotto of rocks in the middle of the woods. And sitting on top of the rocks is this ugly, very
scary, has blue eyes,
scary
horns.
looking statue. Yes, it's made out of porcelain too, if you can believe it or not. If that thing
made out of porcelain?
Yeah, I thought it was paper mache at first.
That's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask you what it was made out of.
But apparently,
porcelain.
Apparently, according to Tony Spera, the Ed and Lorraine Warren's son-in-law, if that thing did happen to tip over, it'd shatter to a million pieces, and that would not be good.
Yeah.
But apparently, what happened is this deer hunter, he sees this statue sit in the middle of the woods. It's literally looking right at me on the next screen. It's kind of creeping me out. But either way, he looks at it and he gets terrified. He's like, okay, this is not a good location that I am in. So he turns around, starts to head out of the woods, and then there's a man following him right behind him. And he's walking perfectly foot matched with him. Hunter takes right step. This guy, who's all dressed in black except for a snow white beard, is doing a right step with him. Right step, left step, left step. Finally, the hunter has the courage to turn around. He says, excuse me, do you know where I can find my way out of these woods? The guy dressed in black just points over, you can't see my arm, pointing to the right.
To the right, yeah.
Yeah. And so he manages to find his car, drives home, tells his buddies about it, freaks out, and he can't get that statue out of his mind. And so his buddies once again say, why don't you just call up Ed Warren? He lives in Monroe, so over the next town over. It's amazing.
Call him up. Just got on speed dial. Everyone knows who he is.
So he calls up Ed. He tells everything that happened. Ed says, do you think you can find this location again? He goes, yeah, I'll try. So Ed goes out there, meets the hunter. Lorraine is with him. They go into the woods, and in no time, they find this statue sitting there on the woods, and Ed knew what it was immediately. He looks at it. He goes, I know what this is. He goes, this is a satanic worship idol. And the man that you're describing to me, he's a high priest in a satanic cult. He's very powerful. This does not belong in the woods. So Ed, with the hunter, takes it out of the grotto of rocks, loads it into the car, takes it, puts it in the museum where it's sitting to this day. And nothing happened after that. About 3 days later, nothing happened. Perfectly calm, nothing happened. So Ed, it's one afternoon. It's a very sunny day. Ed is working on his car. He's changing the wipers on his car. And Lorraine is working in the gardens. And Ed just happens to turn around, and Lorraine turned around at the same time. She's like, hi, honey. They were like that. They just loved each other so much,
Oh.
Ed turns around, does something again, and then he turns around again to ask Lorraine something. There's no Lorraine. Lorraine is on the ground in like a fetal position, semi-conscious. He runs over to her. He's like, Lorraine, wake up. She's like in and out of consciousness. So he calls the ambulance. They take her to the hospital. Doctors can't find anything that's going wrong with her. And 3 days later, she snaps out of it like nothing happened. She was perfectly fine. Doctor sent her home. A couple days later, Tony Spera, the son-in-law, goes over, and they're sitting in the museum. And he asks Ed, he goes, Ed, did you ever find out what happened to Lorraine? He goes, the doctors never told me anything that was wrong with my wife. He goes, but I know what happened. He goes, it was that priest in the satanic cult. He was mad that I took his statue out of the woods, and he did that to Lorraine as a warning to me to not mess with his stuff again.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask him. Like, I'm surprised this guy didn't show up out of nowhere to say, like, hey.
Well, he knows how powerful Ed is. Ed had a very big reputation at the
Yeah.
time. Amityville had already happened. The Perrin family already happened. I believe the Smurl case had already happened.
Of course, yeah. He had a reputation of being able to basically ward off evil at this point.
Well, Ed was a self-taught demonologist. He taught
Yeah.
himself as a teenager all about the about all the goods and the bads that surround us, because he actually lived in a haunted house growing up.
Yes. I remember in the Hulu documentary I watched in preparation for this interview.
Good watch.
Very good watch. Yeah, it was good. It was really informative. And it's also crazy to think that for Lorraine, she never even told her family, really, that she had this gift.
Right.
And it's crazy to think that both Ed and Lorraine, their God was basically mending for them to be together because they made such a great team.
They did, yes. It's just I don't
a
know
great
if
love story,
I don't know if I believe in soulmates or not, but if there's a perfect example right there, there it is.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I feel like, once again, it's like God put them together for a reason.
Exactly. What did you think of The Conjuring 2?
The Conjuring 2, that's the one with...
That's the Enfield poltergeist.
That's the one in London, right?
It's in London, yes.
Yes. I thought it was pretty cool. I don't like the nun.
You don't like Valak the demon nun?
I like the demon. And I'm going to be honest, I don't like the nun, the movie. That's the thing with the... Because that's the one after this, correct? I think it's in the Conjuring universe, but it's not connected to it.
It's connected. The nun films are the prequels to the whole Conjuring universe.
Okay, yeah.
In chronological
so
order.
Okay. But Valak, yeah, I didn't like that character that much. It was pretty scary.
Interesting.
But also when it comes to like everything, like when they do start to focus on religion, like in this video, you see the crosses going upside down. I think that those are the creepiest because it's like they are testing with religion, and I am a woman of God, so I don't know. A little crazy, but I do believe the visuals in this movie were insane. Like the crooked man there was just so many good like jump scares in that film.
The one that got me was when the little girl is sitting in the chair and then the old man pops up behind her when she's watching TV. That one gets me every time. And I've watched that film like 5 times and it gets me every time and I know it's coming.
Yeah, no, I think it's great once again, but the acting too, I have to say I give credit to the actors too, because it makes you really think you're back in that time and you are watching a real possession taking place.
Well, I think The Conjuring 2, again, I think this one and the first one are debatably for which one is the best one. But The Conjuring 2, I think, really set in stone what the series was going to be all about. I think Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga's chemistry is lifted off the charts in there. You get to know their characters a little bit better, how nice and caring they are. They don't give up on a case even if they believe that it might be fake. They want to get to the bottom of it, and they don't stop until that it is fully resolved. The Conjuring 2 is a massive win for me, I think. And it's even, you can even call it a little bit of a Christmas film because it takes place at Christmas time. It does take place
during Christmas time, you're right.
And I also can't hear Elvis's Can't Help Falling in Love with You without thinking of Ed and Lorraine after that.
That's true, I forgot about that. That was a good clip in the film too. But I still think the first one's probably the scariest. I haven't watched it back since like 2013 when it came out.
Annabelle Comes Home brings Annabelle's story full circle. They show Annabelle when she comes to the Warrens' house, when they place her in the box. And from there, it turns into, this is going to sound kind of strange considering this universe, but I consider it the most fun of the Conjuring universe films. It's the one I find myself putting on the most for rewatch availability. In fact, I even put it on just this Saturday before I went to a White Sox game.
Now that I'm rewatching this little preview, I'm like, I think I may have seen snippets of it. And this is basically, when it's like the babysitter of Ed and Lorraine's Warren's kids decided to go touching everything in the freaking museum after they said, don't touch anything.
I was literally screaming in the theater, me and my friend who went to go see this together. It was the first time ever in a Conjuring universe film. And in fact, I think it's what makes it so fun. We're like basically yelling at the screen, like, what are you doing? Don't touch it. Are you crazy? Oh, this poor person is just totally cursed right now. And then on top of that, when Annabelle falls out of that case, it's, oh, goodness. Really? But I think it's the most fun. This is the
scene, yes. Or she goes under the covers and she's under there.
Oh, yes.
That's the kill.
There's a scene, too, that gets me every time. It's when, oops, wrong camera shot.
No, you're good.
I'm
scared.
There's a scene, it's right before that. The babysitter goes to tuck Judy Warren in, and the babysitter sees Annabelle, like, at the end of the bed. And she thinks Annabelle is just, like, one of her regular dolls. And so she opens up Judy's arms and puts Annabelle, like, in between the little girl's arms. It's actually one of the posters too. It just freaks me out. I'm like, what are you doing? No, don't put her in between the arms. Are you crazy? That doll is crazy. It's scary.
Speaking of realistic dolls, have you ever heard of Robert the doll in Key West? He's
I
a real
have.
doll.
I went to Key West a few years ago, maybe about 10 years ago, and I was the only one that wanted to go see him, and nobody else in my family wanted to go. So, and I wasn't old enough to walk off on my own at that time, so I couldn't go see it. But I wanted to, though.
Yeah.
I've heard the stories. But for the people that don't know, why don't you just tell us a little bit about Robert?
Yeah, so basically, this is a haunted doll that lives in Key West. It's in a little cubicle. I don't want to know what to call a little case. But basically, this has been a doll that's been around since like the 1800s, I think. Don't quote me on the timeline. But it's been around for a very long time. And basically, it started off by being the best friend for this boy. But you know, after a while, after you get done with, after you grow up a certain age, you don't want to touch your teddy bears or dolls. But this guy wanted to keep his doll. He would talk to it. He would take it to dinner, feed it, act as if it's basically a real person. But this would go on for years. He eventually started getting married.
Goodness.
But this doll started basically tormenting people. And it got to the point where it got taken away. Now it's in a museum. But the people that go and visit this doll have to pay massive respect. So this basically what goes on is if you taunt the doll, there's been times where people have said they've gotten cancer, they've gotten into accidents. Basically, bad things happen if you don't pay any respect to this doll. My boyfriend, personally, he went and saw Robert the doll before, and he said the feeling you get when you're looking at it, you can tell that something's looking back at you.
Well, I think that
it's scary. It's an experience. I've always wanted to go do it. Maybe now that I'm older, I'll go do it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a cool experience, and it's a Florida thing. So.
Well, speaking of that, I've watched a couple YouTube channels. There's a couple of guys that I follow on YouTube. They've gone to go see Robert. I've seen him on TV, you could say.
Colby.
And I'm convinced the Annabelle series took inspiration from Robert the Doll's habitat, I'll call it, because every video that you watch where they get into the room that Robert is in, they play this music box music in there. And the Annabelle theme in the Conjuring universe is a music box theme. So
then yeah,
I think they took full-on inspiration from that.
That completely makes sense, yeah. But I was saying for Sam and Colby, because they documented their trip going to go meet Robert the doll, and 6 months after, apparently they're on video, they're taunting them. One of the Colby, he ended up getting testicular cancer like 6 months after.
Oh wow!
And it was like gonna kill him. So
he's still alive.
He's still alive, but he basically said he had to write a letter apologizing to Robert, and that's when he got cleared, and he was cancer free like a couple weeks afterwards. I think those things are just like you could say that it just happens to be a coincidence, but if you're telling me this guy a couple months ago, before everything, was super healthy, 25 years old, he goes and taunts this doll that's known to have these bad energies and bad voodoo, and gets diagnosed with something like that, and then the only way for him to believe he's going to be okay is to write a letter to it, apologizing for taunting the doll.
I was going to say
that's crazy to me.
I was going to say the thing that's honestly freaking out the most is you're talking about this doll. It's almost like it's a person. Like, you got to pay respects to it. You got to... I'm even scared to say it right now. Should I start saying him?
I don't know. Who knows? Hopefully they don't watch it.
Not to mention the way that doll looks. I'll drop a VO in here when I edit this, but the doll's like, its face is almost looks like it's chipped off. And the only thing that's still intact is that sailor suit I think he wears.
But it's kind of like a big thing. If you go down to Key West, if you go to one of the ghost tours, that's like the main attraction. But they give you a lot of preamp saying, hey, you gotta... If you're going to look at it, you have to be respectful, good vibes, good energy, because if not, something's going to follow you and it's going to come home with you.
Oh, goodness, now. Now I'm terrified to go back.
Oh, my God. But you have to. You have to. There's
I'll go.
Choice. As a paranormal investigator and enthusiast, you have to go. Just question, have you heard of the Zach Bagans Haunted Museum in Las Vegas? That you have to sign a whole entire contract, basically, to even walk in there.
Honestly, that's just a trip I want to do in general. I've not, as of September 2025. Thank you. I've not been to Vegas yet, and I want to go. So I want to go so bad because I'm a true crime buff. That's the city that Bugsy Siegel built. So,
who's Bugsy Siegel?
Oh, okay, all right, different topic now. Okay,
just give me information.
All right, he's one of the most popular gangsters of all time. He had ties in with Hollywood, and he's basically the man that built Las Vegas. Have you ever seen The Godfather?
I'm horrible with films, Ben. I'm telling you, like, I've never seen Pulp Fiction. I've never seen Psycho. I've never seen American Psycho. I've never seen that one. There's a lot of films that are good horror classics and just classics in general I've never seen. That
actually brings up a little off-topic thing. Well, actually, no, not really. You said you wanted to see the new Monster series, right, about Ed Gein?
Yes, about Ed Gein. Yeah, because you told me it was basically based off, like, I have to keep up on it before.
You got to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You got to watch Psycho. and you got to watch Silence of the Lambs because he inspired all three of those.
I tried watching Silence of the Lambs. I watched the first 20 minutes. I think even the reporter's name is Natasha.
Clarice. Close. You're close.
That was not close.
I'm trying to be nice to you.
But I'm like, there's one investigator that I know that they name her name's Natasha. I'm just like, oh my God. But yeah. First thing though is The Last Rite, because
definitely
that's coming out this week.
Yes, The Conjuring Last Rites is coming out this week. I do plan on seeing it Friday. I will have the review out that same day, WNDU.com, clicking on the entertainment tab. And we've been going on for quite a bit. So, Natacha, I think we sadly have to wrap up this episode. I know. Well, Natacha Casal, I want to thank you so much, not just for coming on the podcast, but I think I do have to say something on here that the people need to know, that without you, I think, honestly, where I am right now, sitting in the podcast room, doing the reviews, making a professional page on social media and everything, that would not have happened if it weren't for you. You really fulfilled 99.9% of a little boy who grew up near Chicago's dream right now. And I just want to thank you so much, Natacha.
Anytime.
Podcast hug then.
Podcast hug.
I'll hug you in person when we're done recording. But Natacha, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me on. And I know you're going to go far with this. And this is only the beginning, bro. I got you.
Thanks, Natacha. Got you. You're a good friend. Thank you. Well, that's going to bring this episode of Slack on Flicks to a close. Thank you guys so much. Remember, you can catch my full review for The Conjuring Last Rites on WNDU.com by clicking on the entertainment tab. And of course, next week I'll do a full podcast review of The Conjuring Last Rites, what I didn't like about it. Make sure to check out all our previous podcast and reviews. Thank you guys so much. I will see you next week. Hey guys, well, it is just a couple days after we recorded the previous podcast. We are just less than 48 hours away from The Conjuring Last Rites. Natacha Casal is back with me. She just recently viewed the trailer for The Conjuring Last Rites. She had not seen it in a while. Natacha, do you have any predictions for this film?
I am shocked. I feel like one of the Warrens are going to die.
What?
Yes, I feel like one of them are going to die, even though realistically, in reality, they did not die in real life due to any supernatural causings. But I think it's going to be probably one of the best ones yet. I like the fact that the demon that they're referring to, the main character in this film, I would presume, you can't really see the face, but you can tell how it's a big, scary demeanor. And I really am hoping they kind of can talk and tell more into that story of how they came across it and why they were so scared. I'm excited for this film to come out. I really hope that it blows all the other films in the Conjuring universe out of the water. That's exactly what I want.
That's the positive energy I like going into films like this, any film in general. And speaking of the demon that's supposedly haunting the Smurl family in this film in here, I like that they're not really showing a lot of it, but that's one of the main things I enjoy about the Conjuring universe is that they save these big demons. They save their full review until the film actually comes out. We didn't even know what Valak the Demon Nun really looked like until The Conjuring 2 finally came out.
You're right, because I forgot. They reference him throughout him or her throughout the entire film, but then also with the nun, it gives you the entire backstory of how this even came to be.
Right.
Honestly, are you going to watch the films in chronological order before going to watch the Last Rites or no?
Well, they've been playing on cable TV quite a bit, and my grandparents have cable TV, so I've been seeing them there every time I go and visit there.
Oh,
and
even after the scary incident, you're still watching it?
Yeah, really. And then the next room over is literally where that happened. So, But the Conjuring universe, I might as well say it right now, it is my fourth favorite film franchise of all time. So I've seen the films more than one occasion. I honestly know how they go. But yeah, I'll probably watch quite a few recap videos on YouTube. I actually found one yesterday. Maybe I'll send it to you after we're done recording. It's a pretty good recap.
I'm down.
But as far as predictions go, I think that this is going to be a culmination of the franchise because if you watch the official trailer, there are little nods in there to the previous films. Not seeing them in the artifact room, I mean, supernatural occurrences that are happening. There's an upside down cross in there, which is a callback to the Conjuring 2 with
Annabelle
Valak.
comes out at some point.
Annabelle,
Flash.
that's the big one. That is the big one. I've been predicting ever since I saw that trailer months ago. I think the final showdown is going to be the Warrens against Annabelle, because if this is the last one, why not give the fans what they want? Easily the most popular characters in the Conjuring universe are Ed and Lorraine Warren and Annabelle. And it was cool enough.
Are they going to try and stay true to the story? Because the first thing that comes out after Lorraine Warren in the commercial, it goes based on a true story.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm curious to see, they're branding it right off the get-go, saying they're going to be going based off of what really happened to the Smurl family. So I want to see how much credibility they're going to hold up with that.
Well, we talked about it earlier. The Conjuring universe does take quite a bit of fictional liberties as far as it comes to the actual hauntings, but the way they're rooted in the true story. So it's probably going to be no different here, but it's the final installment of a beloved franchise that's been going for 12 years now. I think if you're really going to go out with a bang, give the fans what they want. This is what I think the fans are going to want. Not to mention, it's a pretty cool callback to Annabelle Comes Home, because Judy Warren, who is now getting married in this film, she's now an adult. Imagine her having to face off against Annabelle all these years later, because she faced off against her. Annabelle Comes Home, she was about 11 years old. Now she's probably about 22, 23 now. So I just think it would be an interesting callback. Not to mention the premise itself is a callback to the first Conjuring. It's a family, a mother and father, 5 or 6 daughters in there living in a haunted house. Warren's got to come and investigate. Direct callback to the Conjuring 1.
It's like a full circle completely.
Yep.
But now that I think about it, I think it would be pretty cool for Judy to battle Annabelle, and the Warrens would be battling against this demon that they've been the first demon that they ever came across.
Right.
So I just think it's going to be really cool. It's just interesting. But once again, I want to know if they make it seem like one of the Warrens are going to die. And I don't know if it's going to be Ed or if they're going to try and kill off Lorraine, but I would hope maybe none of them die.
I hope not either, because timeline-wise, that would not line up, because this is supposed to be 1986. Ed unfortunately didn't pass away. Unfortunately didn't pass away. That sounded bad. I'll edit that out.
He didn't. Okay, so yeah.
Ed passed away in 2001, and Lorraine passed away in 2016, 2017. So it wouldn't really line up, but story-wise, I could see it happening. They even kind of hinted at Ed almost dying at the opening of The Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do It.
Yeah.
But we'll see where it takes it.
But there's been so many incidences with Lorraine where she's had seizures or nearly almost died multiple times. So maybe this is the last time that it happens, because they kind of leave you on a cliffhanger at the end of the commercial. So I'm excited.
Again,
I wonder I wonder how long it's going to be. It's going to be good. It's going to be a great start to the spooky season, this film coming out. Speaking
of spooky season, you got any plans for Halloween this year?
No. I want to go to Halloween Horror Nights, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. Yeah, I'm hoping next year I'll be able to go, but nothing so far planned out. Florida's kind of a little bit boring when it comes to the seasons. It's just hot.
Just hot. That's the scares right there. How hot it's going to be the next day.
Literally. Maybe if there's a hurricane, that might be the scare.
There's your scare. Tastes good.
So good. Olipop. Peaches and cream sponsor me. The summer drink.
You heard her. Well, Natacha, now I think we're going to draw the podcast to a close. We gave the fans a little bit of a post-credit scene here.
We did.
Thank you all for watching, guys. Again, you'll see my review for The Conjuring Last Rites come Friday. Natacha, I can't wait to hear your reaction. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a great day wherever you are.